Hi there once again, and welcome to another Expresso mechanic tutorial, and this is episode 13 in the series Python Bytes. In this one we're going to be building an alarm clock, and we're going to be doing that by using the datetime class within Python. That's what we're going to be about in this tutorial, so without further ado, let's see if we can make this happen. The first thing I'm going to reach for will in fact be a null object, and I'm going to call this Expresso. Now, why am I doing that when we're working with Python? Well, you'll see in a moment. Let's just give it the Expresso tag. So we've got our window open. And what we need to reach for is a Python node, because that's where we're going to be working with Python. We don't need anything at the input stage for this, nothing whatsoever, and we can get rid of the current output 1, and then we can add some new ones. So we need 3 strings, so we'll get those in, and finally we need an integer. So we've got all of those in, and we can think about renaming them. So we'll start at the top and we'll rename this date today. Current time, so current underscore time. Alarm indicator. And finally, alarm. So that gives us our Python node with all its outputs set up and named, so all is good. The next step is to bring in a couple of text splines, and with them both selected, I'm going to change their font, and I'm going to use, if I can find it, Quartz here. Now it's entirely up to you which you choose to use, whatever font you've got in your armory there, you can use whatever you wish. So I'm just going to make this say 20, make it a bit smaller, and those are ready to go. The next thing we can do is drop both of them. I'll hold down the option key and drop them both into extrudes, and the extrudes only need to be about 10. That should be fine, or maybe even less. We could go 5, I think, with that. Let's go 5. I would think they'll be okay. I'll hit O for objects just to see what we've got. And yeah, they're going to work, aren't they? They'll be fine. So if we get our first extrude and we just move it up above the other so that we can see what we're doing. One of them will be the time, the other will be the date. So what we can do next is bring in our text spline. So we'll bring this one in, and we'll bring this one in. And from here we know that we've got strings, so we can attach this here and say text spline. At the moment we're going to get a yellow top because we've got no code in there that's going to relate to any of this, but we'll sort that out in a minute. And we'll do the same here, and once again object properties text spline. So those two are on the way to being set up for us, and the next thing we can think about is getting into some code. So let's switch to a scripting layout, reselect this, and open in Python editor. Fabulous. We can get rid of that and just clear that out for now. This line can be removed, and we can think about adding some more global variables. In fact, the globals are all relating to the outputs. That's what we've got to add, just with the other outputs. So we can say current underscore time, alarm underscore indicator, and finally alarm. And that's all those set up. We can now think about working with the date and time and actually getting those set up so that they actually output something to these splines. So if we say today is equal to And before we go there, actually, there's something that I do need to do. I must come up here and say from, otherwise this isn't going to work. Date time. So the date time class is what we're interested in. We're going to say import date, comma, date time. So to use the date, we simply need to import date, but to use the time, we have to say date time. You can't just say time, which is a bit odd, but it's just the way it works. Okay, so we're ready to go. So we can say that today is equal to date dot today. Open close brackets. And that will bring in today's date for us. So it addresses that particular data. It's as simple as that. And then if we say now is equal to date time dot now, that will give us the current time. So that's fantastic. That's what we need. But to output this data correctly to the text spline, there's some more work that we've got to do. So we've got to say date today, which of course is our output up here, is equal to, and it will be today dot strf time. And we will then say brackets, quotes, percentage sign, and it will be a small d, / percentage sign, small m, / percentage sign, large or capital Y, and then close our quotes. So what are we doing here? Well, we're taking the today, which is the date today, and we're turning it into a string, because strf means string from, and it's string from time. And that will, but it ought to be string from date really, shouldn't it? But it's string from time because that gives us the date. And that's the way that works. Now, we also want the current time, so we can say current time, which again is our output over here. And that's going to equal now dot, and I'm just going to copy this and then make some changes. So we can paste that in here, and where we've got this D, we'll simply change that to a capital H. The M can be changed to a capital M, and the Y to a capital S. So that will give us the time as a string in hours, minutes and seconds. So that's what we need here to make this work. Now, at the moment, we've got nothing in the alarm indicator and nothing in the alarm. So what we could do is cheat here. We could say alarm underscore indicator is equal to, and then in brackets, we can just say open quotes, space, close quotes. And alarm can be equal to 0. And let's see if that actually does anything for us. Well, straight away we can see that it does. Our yellow top has disappeared, and we can see that we have got the time and the date now showing. And if we run the timeline, the time counts. We can see the seconds ticking away. So we've got it that far, and that's all working perfectly well. The next step is to add some user data, and then we can think about creating the actual alarm setup. Before we actually do that, there is one thing that I'm going to change. Because I did a copy here, I should have actually changed these / to colons, because time usually has colons between the hours, minutes, seconds. And now if we execute, we can see that we actually get the time displayed as we'd expect it to be, and it all still works fine. So yeah, just make sure that you set your time up with the colons as opposed to /. But that's great. That's all working exactly as I wanted to. So the next thing to do then is to create this user data. So we've got our Python node selected, and we can come into our user data and say add user data. First thing I'll do is add a group, drag it away from our user data here, and rename this group just controls. In fact, I'll say alarm controls because that's what they're going to be. So alarm controls, that's the group sorted out. And this data can be dropped into here. And this can be time, and it will be a string. So we'll set that up in here. If I can find string, there we are. And the default can just be 00 colon 00 colon 00. So that's that done. And then we can add some more data, and this will be off / set. And this will be an integer type. And the interface, we will want radio buttons. And we've got to put a value in a string. So we'll start with 0 semicolon off 1 semicolon set. And we can check the details and the example, and we can see that we're going to get what we want. So that's all looking fine. And then we can just hit OK. And those two are now set up for us down here. So moving on from here then, we can make a little bit of space up here, and we can drag these in. So we'll bring that into there. And we'll call this alarm time. Is equal to op and our user data. And then we'll also bring in off and set, so bring this in here. And we'll call this alarm underscore off underscore set is equal to op user data 3. So those are both set up and ready to go. The next thing we can do is think about working down here again. So we can take these two lines out because we don't need them. And we can say if alarm underscore off underscore set is equal to 1. So in other words, if we've clicked on here and we want to set this time up as the time at which the alarm is going to go off, then we can start working down here. So we can say alarm underscore indicator. So we're now working here, and we'll need to bring in another text spline for this, but we'll just do the code first. We can say equals brackets quotes alarm set close quotes. So that's going to output that for us. And we can then say if now dot strf time, let's copy this from here actually, because it's the hours, minutes, seconds that we're interested in. We can just drop that into there. And we can say greater than or equal to, and it will be string brackets, and it will be alarm time. So we can copy this from here and drop that in there. So in other words, if our time matches what we've got in here, then that obviously is when the alarm is going to go off. So if it's greater than or equal to that time, then that's the time at which we want the alarm to go off. We can then say colon at the end of there, alarm is equal to 1, which will trigger the alarm. And we're going to be using a sound for that. And I'll be doing that a little bit later. Else alarm is equal to 0. We can then move back to here and say else alarm underscore indicator equals, again, it'll be brackets, open quotes, alarm off, close quotes. And finally, alarm is equal to 0. And that's the code. That's as much as we need to do for the code. We've now got to think about bringing in another text spline so that we've got the alarm indicator, and then we'll bring in a sound node with an appropriate alarm effect, and that's all we need to do in order to finish this off. We'll bring in another text spline. I'll just drop it down here, and also I'll drop it into an extrude. So hold down my option key, grab an extrude. Once again, it needs to be an offset of 5. We also need to make this much smaller, 20. So that's down at the correct size. Let's just move it down here. Its font, once again, I'm going to change to Quartz. And that's good. All looks great. Matches up with everything else. Just bring that down in there. And then this we can bring in to here. Get our alarm indicator output and text spline, and straight away we get alarm off. So that's all working. The next thing to do is just work with the alarm sound. So we'll bring a sound node in, come into our general menu, grab a hold of a sound node, and we'll plumb the alarm into the play input. That's what we need in there. We need our sound, so we can click on the select a file to load icon, and let's see where we are. So we want music, and recently added an alarm beep is the sound that I'm using. Okay, so that's, we're going to select that sound, and I will put a link to where you can get this particular sound from. So we've got that there. Now let's see if we can set this up so that it actually works. If we just run the timeline, in fact I'll close this down, I think. In fact, no, I don't need to do that, do I? I need to select the Python node first because I need the user data. So let's just select my alarm controls and just lock that so that it's on the screen. And let's have a go and let's see what we can do. So we'll return the timeline and just play that. So we're at 10:56:31. So if we set this to 10:57, just put the colon back in. So we want the alarm to go off at 10:57, so we'll set it. We've got alarm set straight away, and let's play the timeline and see if anything happens. If I haven't made any errors, we should get a sound. So we're nearly there. And look at that, it works. And that sound will just play until it stops. Even if you stop the timeline, it will continue playing. So it's 18 seconds in length. Yeah, so it all works. As you can see, that works perfectly. So a simple setup, really, to actually make that work. And of course, if we then set the alarm to off, and we set it to 10:58, we can carry on playing, and when we get to 10:58 you'll find the alarm just won't go off. So yeah, I mean, as I say, quite a simple setup really, but it goes to show you the power of Python. I mean, if you ever need an alarm clock, or even just a clock or just the date, you can easily get a hold of that data and output it to you know, just a text spline and create that. There you go, it's 10:58, the alarm hasn't gone off. But you know, it's a very powerful setup with this, and it goes, as I say, it does go to show you what you can do with Python and how versatile it really is within Cinema 4D. But anyway, that's what I wanted to show you in this tutorial, and as always, I really hope you've enjoyed this one and that you've got some new techniques that you can use within your own projects. And if you have enjoyed the video, then please give it a like, and of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment and ring the bell. And wherever you happen to be on social media, then please share this video, because all this good stuff really does help keep the channel moving in the right direction. But anyway, for now, that just about brings the curtain down on this one. So I'll see you very soon on the next tutorial.